Segment 1. The primordial. At this stage there are no identifiable boundaries. No horizon divides earth from sky. No light distinguishes day from night. Motion, direction, and distance are undefined. The cosmos exists only as an open interval in which further forms can emerge. Within the mythological genealogy recorded in early Greek poetry, chaos therefore serves as the first point in the sequence of cosmic formation. Following the appearance of chaos, additional primordial presences come into existence. Among the earliest is Gaia. Gaia represents the earth itself. In the narrative order preserved in the Greek tradition, Gaia emerges as a foundational surface within the previously undefined cosmic space. Where chaos is described as a gap or opening, Gaia provides stability and structure. The emergence of Gaia introduces the first identifiable plane within the cosmos, a firm and extended ground capable of supporting further creation. The presence of Gaia establishes the first clear distinction in the developing universe. A defined surface now exists where none had existed before. The mythological narrative describes Gaia as broad and enduring, a foundation upon which subsequent forms of life and divinity may appear. In the genealogical structure of Greek myth, Gaia functions both as a primordial entity and as a generative force capable of producing additional beings. Another early presence appears alongside Gaia in the primordial sequence, Tartarus. Tartarus occupies a position far below the surface associated with Gaia. In later mythological narratives, Tartarus becomes known as a deep and remote region of confinement, but in the earliest cosmological stage it functions primarily as a profound depth within the universe. Its emergence introduces the first vertical dimension to the developing cosmic structure, with Gaia representing the surface and Tartarus representing the deepest region beneath it. The mythological cosmos begins to develop spatial orientation. Above remains the open interval of chaos, while below lies the distant abyss of Tartarus. The early Greek cosmological imagination thus organizes the universe through layered regions that gradually become distinguishable. A fourth primordial presence also appears in the early sequence, Eros. In the earliest literary descriptions, Eros is associated with generative force and the capacity for beings to produce offspring. The appearance of Eros introduces the principle through which further generations of divine figures can arise. Unlike later portrayals that depict Eros as a youthful figure associated with human affection, the primordial Eros represents a fundamental force that enables union and reproduction among divine beings. With the presence of chaos, Gaia, Tartarus, and Eros, the mythological cosmos reaches its first organized stage. Each element contributes a distinct component to the emerging structure of existence. Chaos remains the surrounding expanse. Gaia forms the stable surface. Tartarus defines the remote depth. Eros introduces the mechanism through which new forms of life and divinity can emerge. The early Greek narrative does not describe this process through measurements of time or physical mechanisms. Instead, the sequence unfolds genealogically. Each entity appears within the mythic order as part of a lineage that gradually expands the population of the cosmos. The structure of the story resembles a family tree in which successive generations define the evolution of the universe. Once Gaia is present, the narrative begins to describe further acts of generation associated with her. Gaia possesses the capacity to produce additional beings from her own substance. In the earliest stage of creation, this generative process occurs without the participation of another partner. Through this ability, Gaia contributes directly to the expansion of the cosmic population. At the same time, the environment created by chaos allows additional primordial forces to appear. The early Greek poets describe the universe as gradually filling with presences that define different aspects of existence. Darkness, night, and other elemental conditions later rise within this developing structure. These developments occur after the foundational stage established by chaos, Gaia, Tartarus, and Eros. Within the narrative order of the Greek mythological tradition, the emergence of these primordial beings does not yet involve conflict or political authority among gods. Instead, the earliest stage focuses on the formation of the cosmic framework itself. Only after the structure of the universe becomes more complex do later events introduce struggles between generations of divine figures. The primordial stage therefore serves as the foundation for all subsequent developments in Greek mythology. Every later generation of gods descends from or interacts with the forces established during this initial phase. The Titans, the Olympians, and the heroes of later myth all emerge within a universe whose basic structure originates in this early moment. The genealogical description recorded in ancient Greek poetry reflects the way early Greek thinkers conceptualized the origin of the world, rather than presenting a single act of creation performed by a solitary figure. The tradition describes a sequence of emergences in which multiple primordial forces appear and interact. Each new presence contributes a specific dimension to the growing universe. Gaia's role within this system becomes particularly significant as the narrative continues. Because Gaia represents the earth itself, many later divine figures originate from her. Mountains, seas, and numerous divine lineages trace their beginnings to Gaia's generative capacity. Her presence therefore anchors the physical and genealogical structure of the mythological cosmos. Tartarus also acquires additional significance in later myth. Although initially introduced simply as a deep region of the universe, Tartarus eventually becomes associated with the confinement of defeated divine beings. In later stages of Greek mythology, powerful figures who lose cosmic conflicts are imprisoned in this remote abyss. The early appearance of Tartarus in the primordial sequence establishes the existence of such a region long before it becomes the site of later mythological events. Eros, meanwhile, ensures that creation continues beyond the primordial stage by introducing the force that enables union and reproduction. Eros allows successive generations of divine figures to appear, the emergence of families of gods, and the eventual development of complex divine hierarchies depend on this generative principle. In the earliest cosmological stage, however, these later developments have not yet occurred. The narrative remains focused on the gradual emergence of structure within the universe. Chaos provides the original expanse, Gaia supplies the first stable surface, Tartarus introduces depth, Eros enables generative connection. Together these elements form the initial framework, within which further divine generations will appear. The absence of sky, sea, and celestial bodies at this point highlights the incomplete nature of the early cosmos. No stars illuminate the expanse above Gaia, no oceans surround the land. No seasons or cycles regulate time. These features belong to later stages of mythological development and arise only after additional divine figures come into existence. The genealogical narrative therefore proceeds step by step, with each new presence expanding the scope of the universe as the sequence continues. Further primordial forces will appear that define darkness, night, light, and the upper atmosphere. These additions gradually transform the early void into a structured cosmos capable of sustaining multiple realms and divine populations. At the conclusion of this first stage, the universe contains the foundational elements required for expansion. Chaos still surrounds the emerging structure as the open cosmic interval. Gaia stands as the broad surface of the earth. Tartarus occupies the distant depth below. Eros provides the generative force through which new beings can arise. From this foundation, the mythological narrative proceeds to the next stage of cosmic development, where additional primordial figures appear and the conditions of night, darkness, and celestial space begin to take form. Segment 2 of the birth of night and darkness following the initial emergence of the primordial void and the establishment of the foundational entities. The Greek mythological narrative introduces additional forces that define the early conditions of the cosmos. This second stage in the cosmological sequence, as preserved in Hesiod's Theogony, focuses on the appearance of darkness, night, and related elemental conditions. These entities represent the extension and differentiation of the primordial order, marking the first delineations of cosmic dualities. The earliest among these emergent forces is Nyx. In Hesiod's account, Nyx appears following the initial formation of chaos, Gaia, Tartarus, and Eros. She embodies the concept of night, not merely as a temporal division but as a primordial presence that contributes to the structuring of the universe. At this stage, Nyx exists independently and generates other deities through her own inherent powers, indicating that in Greek cosmology, new forces can originate from a single primordial being without partnership or external intervention. Nyx's emergence establishes a temporal and spatial contrast within the universe. Prior to her appearance, the cosmos exists in a formless expanse characterized by the presence of chaos. With Nyx, the narrative introduces the notion of cycles and conditions, a measurable state that separates one aspect of reality from another. Although Hesiod does not assign measurable units of time, the presence of night implies an operational difference from the primordial void and the surface of Gaia. The universe begins to display distinct functional regions, where light and darkness, presence and absence, begin to define the environment. Following Nyx, Erebus emerges. Erebus represents the deep, pervasive darkness that fills spaces not occupied by Gaia or Tartarus. Whereas Nyx personifies night as a cyclical and temporal condition, Erebus embodies the continuous, enveloping darkness of the void itself. Hesiod presents Erebus as a complementary force to Nyx, establishing a dualistic structure in which contrasting primordial conditions coexist and interact. The two figures are not engaged in conflict. Instead, their presence defines the initial differentiation within the early cosmos. The emergence of Nyx and Erebus introduces the concept of generative duality, a key structural element in Greek cosmogony. Nyx produces offspring independently, which include deities and personifications associated with other primordial conditions. Hesiod enumerates several of these offspring, which include Moros, Thanatos, and Hypnos, among others. The emergence of these deities demonstrates that from night itself, the cosmos generates forces that represent essential aspects of existence. Each serves to extend the functional structure of reality, enabling the universe to transition from a differentiated void into a layered and ordered system. Erebus similarly contributes to this generative framework, though with an emphasis on the pervasive and continuous aspect of darkness. Hesiod's text describes the union of Nyx and Erebus, from which additional primordial entities emerge, including Ether and Hemmer. The simultaneous appearance of these entities from the interaction of night and darkness indicates the first systematic differentiation of vertical and temporal dimensions in the early cosmos. The universe now contains not only a surface and depth, but also a cyclical alternation of light and dark, establishing conditions for future cosmological and divine structures. This stage emphasizes spatial and conceptual layering. Gaia provides the horizontal foundation, Tartarus establishes the lowest depth, and the presence of Nyx and Erebus introduces vertical and functional differentiation above and throughout the void. The narrative thus presents the universe as a stratified system, wherein distinct forces occupy specific realms and interact to generate subsequent entities. This stratification is crucial for understanding later cosmological events, including the emergence of Uranus and the Titans. Hesiod presents the offspring of Nyx as independent and functional beings within the cosmos. These personifications, mortality, sleep, doom, strife, among others, represent phenomena essential to the order of existence. Their emergence from night itself indicates that Greek cosmology attributes the production of structural conditions to primordial forces, rather than relying on a single external creator. Each successive generation extends the functional reach of the universe, making it possible for later divine generations to occupy and govern specific domains. In addition to conceptual differentiation, this stage introduces preconditions for subsequent divine hierarchy. By producing offspring through Nyx and Erebus, the early myth sets a precedent for generational succession, wherein each new entity both occupies a domain and facilitates the emergence of additional beings. This principle underpins the genealogy of the Titans and later the Olympian gods. The early Greek poets structured the narrative in this manner to provide a logical framework. The cosmos is progressively populated and organized through a combination of primordial emergence and successive generation. The appearance of Nyx and Erebus also establishes the principle of interaction among primordial forces. Whereas the earlier entities Chaos, Gaia, Tartarus, and Eros exist primarily in isolation or in static relation, Nyx and Erebus engage in combinatory processes that produce new phenomena. These interactions are not political or conflictual, They are structural and generative. They create conditions for light, day, and the upper air to exist later in the narrative sequence. This highlights a mechanical aspect of Greek cosmogony, where functional outcomes result from the presence and combination of pre-existing forces. At this stage, the universe also begins to differentiate in a temporal sense. The alternation between night and day, as embodied by Nyx and Hemera, is not yet governed by measurable cycles but is recognized in myth as a functional sequence. This recognition of temporal contrast allows later deities to exercise influence over specific intervals, such as celestial movements, seasons, and natural cycles. The emergence of Hemera, in particular, signals the first conceptual framework for the regulation of observable phenomena in the cosmos. Spatial differentiation continues concurrently. The vertical dimension is defined by the relation between Tartarus, Gaia, and the upper reach of the void, now occupied conceptually by Nyx and Erebus. Greek myth places these entities within a structured spatial continuum, Tartarus at the lowest extreme, Gaia as the surface, and the primordial dark forces occupying regions above and throughout the expanse of chaos. The combination of temporal and spatial differentiation allows the cosmos to acquire a functional architecture capable of supporting successive generations of gods. The expansion of the primordial order through Nyx and Erebus thus sets the stage for the creation of the first generation of celestial and divine entities. Their presence provides the mechanisms by which further beings, including Uranus, the Titans, and eventually the Olympians, emerge. Hesiod's narrative emphasizes that these processes unfold systematically, each primordial entity contributes uniquely, and the universe becomes increasingly structured and populated with functional forces. By the conclusion of this segment, the cosmos has acquired its initial structural complexity. Chaos remains as the undifferentiated expanse surrounding the emerging entities. Gaia provides a firm surface. Tartarus defines the lowest depth. Nyx introduces night, Erebus introduces pervasive darkness, and their interaction produces Hemera and Ether, establishing the first contrastive functions in the universe. These developments ensure that subsequent events in the mythological sequence, including the generation of Uranus and the Titans, occur within a pre-structured and layered cosmos. The narrative in this stage is purely descriptive and functional, in accordance with the Greek mythological tradition. No emotional or moral attributes are ascribed to Nyx, Erebus, or their offspring. The text emphasizes the mechanisms of emergence and the spatial functional organization of the universe. This approach maintains neutrality while providing a detailed account of the processes that extend the primordial framework into a structured, multidimensional cosmos. In sum, the birth of night and darkness represents the first expansion of the primordial cosmos beyond its initial undifferentiated state. It introduces temporal contrast, spatial layering, and generative capacity, which collectively create conditions for the subsequent appearance of Uranus and the Titan generation. The Greek cosmological narrative treats this stage as essential for establishing a universe capable of sustaining ordered divine hierarchies and functional realms. By carefully tracing the emergence of Nyx, Erebus, and their offspring, the myth provides a complete and logically sequenced framework for understanding the development of the early cosmos. This segment concludes with a fully differentiated primordial universe in which multiple layers of space-time and generative function exist, setting the foundation for the subsequent stages of Greek mythology, including the creation of the sky, the birth of the Titans, and the eventual rise of Zeus.
Segment 3. Gaia and the creation of the sky following the initial emergence of the primordial void. Night and darkness. The Greek mythological narrative proceeds to the formation of the sky. This stage, recorded in Hesiod's Theogony, introduces Uranus, the first generation of sky, and details the processes through which the cosmos begins to acquire its vertical and generative structure. This segment focuses on how Gaia, the primordial earth, produces the first generation of divine beings and lays the foundation for the lineage of the Titans. At this stage, Gaia, already established as the stable surface of the cosmos, takes an active role in creation. She possesses the capacity to generate beings from her own substance, a trait that distinguishes her as both a primordial entity and a progenitor of further divine generations. According to Hesiod, Gaia produces the first sky deity, Uranus, without the aid of any partner. Uranus represents the firm and encompassing sky that overlays the earth. His emergence introduces the first differentiation between the horizontal and vertical dimensions of the universe. Gaia forms the base, while Uranus forms the firmament above. The union of Gaia and Uranus is cosmologically functional rather than relational in the human sense. Hesiod describes this generation as a natural process. Earth produces sky, establishing the vertical axis of the cosmos. This axis creates an environment in which future divine entities can occupy specific realms. Uranus covers Gaia completely, forming a distinct layer that separates the terrestrial surface from the undefined space above. The creation of Uranus is followed by the production of additional divine beings. From the union of earth and sky emerged the first generation of Titans, as well as other important figures in Greek mythology. The initial Titans include Oceanus, the god of the world-encircling river; Hyperion, associated with heavenly light; Cronus, who will later overthrow Uranus; and Rhea, who will become the mother of the Olympians. The emergence of these entities establishes the first generational hierarchy in Greek mythology, in which power and function are organized across different divine families. Gaia's generative process also produces beings with unique and often extraordinary characteristics. Among these are the Cyclopes, single-eyed craftsmen of extraordinary skill, and the Hecatonchires, hundred-handed giants. These beings are not created for conflict initially. Rather, they represent forces that extend the structure and capacity of the cosmos. Cyclopes, for example, will later provide essential craftsmanship for divine weaponry, while the Hecatonchires embody vast strength and multiplicity. Their creation demonstrates that Gaia's generative activity is both functional and foundational, producing forces that will later participate in cosmic events. The narrative emphasizes mechanistic development rather than emotional motivation. Uranus, once present, immediately assumes the role of the sky above Earth, but Hesiod does not describe him as exercising authority in a human sense. Gaia produces further entities as part of the natural unfolding of the cosmos. Each new being occupies a functional domain within the layered structure, Earth below, sky above, deep spaces filled with darkness, and newly generated beings distributed throughout. At this stage, the cosmos is increasingly stratified. Gaia forms the firm surface, Tartarus, the distant depth, and Uranus, the encompassing sky. Above and below, space is now functionally differentiated. Nyx and Erebus have established zones of night and pervasive darkness, while Hemera and Ether mark the first functional contrasts of day and upper air. The addition of Uranus introduces a definable vertical horizon. This allows future entities, including the Titans, to inhabit specific realms and facilitates generational succession. The birth of Uranus and the subsequent Titans also introduces the concept of reproductive succession, a key principle in Greek cosmogony. Hesiod's account presents a sequential system in which one generation produces the next. Gaia generates Uranus, who unites with Gaia to produce the Titans. The Titans, in turn, will generate the Olympians. This system ensures continuity and orderly expansion of the cosmos. The early Greek narrative frames these events as natural processes, avoiding attribution of human-like emotion or intention. The functional purpose of Uranus is central to understanding this stage. By overlaying Gaia, Uranus provides the first ceiling to the universe, distinguishing the terrestrial surface from the unbounded expanse above. This separation is essential for subsequent cosmic events. The vertical distinction allows for the confinement of certain beings within Gaia's surface, while other forces occupy the space above or within the heavens. Hesiod's text implies that the cosmos is structured to maintain balance and facilitate successive generations of divine entities. The narrative describes the initial union of Gaia and Uranus as a cosmic mechanism rather than a relational story. The purpose of this generation is to establish a functional framework. From this union arise the Titans, Cyclopes, and Hecatonchires. Each of these beings contributes to the expansion and differentiation of the universe. It's the Cyclopes, with their skill in crafting, and the Hecatonchires, with their immense strength, extend the operational capacity of the cosmos. These primordial forces will later play critical roles in events such as the Titanomachy. spatial organization continues to develop. Gaia occupies the horizontal plane, Uranus forms the vertical overlay, and Tartarus remains as the deepest layer. Nyx and Erebus occupy specific regions within the void. The interaction of these primordial forces creates a universe with multiple structured layers, each capable of supporting the emerging divine generations. Hesiod's account emphasizes the logical unfolding of these processes. The universe becomes increasingly complex, yet the narrative remains neutral, factual, and mechanistic. The introduction of Uranus also sets the stage for the first divine conflicts. Hesiod notes that Uranus, once present, perceives certain of Gaia's offspring, namely the Cyclopes and Hecatonkers, as problematic. This leads to their imprisonment, which in turn triggers the first rebellion in the cosmos. While these events will unfold in later segments, the creation of Uranus and the Titans is the functional precondition for conflict. The universe must have both layered structure and generative capacity before divine struggles can occur. Time and cycles remain implicit at this stage. The narrative focuses on spatial differentiation and generative mechanics, rather than chronological measurement. The emergence of Uranus introduces the possibility of celestial phenomena, but sun, moon, and stars have not yet appeared. The cosmos is populated primarily by primordial entities and their immediate offspring. These forces define vertical and horizontal domains, enabling the universe to function as a coherent system. By the end of this stage, the cosmos has become a structured, layered system. Gaia provides the horizontal surface. Tartarus defines the deepest layer below. Uranus forms the encompassing sky. Nyx and Erebus continue to occupy zones of night and darkness. Himera and Ether mark functional contrasts. Titans, Cyclopes, and Hecatonkers extend the functional capacity of the cosmos. This stage establishes the framework within which subsequent divine generations will act. The universe is ready for further events, including Uranus' suppression of Gaia's monstrous children, the first cosmic rebellion, and the eventual rise of Cronus and the Olympians. The narrative at this point emphasizes mechanisms and outcomes, not motives or morality. Uranus' role as the sky, Gaia's generative capacity, and the placement of the Titans and other entities are described factually. The story does not interpret these events emotionally. Instead, it presents a coherent system in which each entity serves a functional purpose in the cosmos. In conclusion, the creation of Uranus marks the first deliberate vertical structuring of the universe. Gaia, as the surface, initiates generative processes that produce the Titans and other primordial beings. Uranus overlays Gaia, defining the sky. This layered structure allows the universe to accommodate successive generations, creating the preconditions for conflict, succession, and eventual divine rule. The cosmos now possesses both structural differentiation and generative capability, setting the stage for the rise of the Titans and the eventual birth of Zeus.
Segment 4: The birth of the Titans following the formation of the sky. The Greek mythological narrative advances to the emergence of the Titans, the second generation of divine beings. This stage, preserved in Hesiod's Theogony, establishes the first generational hierarchy beyond the primordial entities and lays the groundwork for the successive sequence of cosmic events, including the eventual rise of Cronus and the Olympians. At this stage, Gaia, having produced Uranus, now generates a set of beings that will dominate the universe for a significant epoch. These are the Titans, powerful deities that embody essential natural and cosmic functions. And like the primordial forces, the Titans are defined by both generative capacity and operational domains. They represent the expansion of the divine population and the functional differentiation of the universe. The first of the Titans include Oceanus, the deity associated with the world-encircling river, Hyperion, linked to heavenly light, Cronus, destined to challenge his father Uranus, and Rhea, who will later mother the Olympians. Each of these figures carries a distinct functional role. Oceanus defines the cosmic waters surrounding the world. Hyperion contributes to celestial illumination and the regulation of day and night. Cronus and Rhea represent the continuity of generational succession. These titans are part of a structured framework that ensures the cosmos develops with defined layers of authority and function. Alongside these primary titans, Gaia produces other figures with specialized characteristics. Among these are the Cyclops, one-eyed giants of extraordinary skill, and the Hecatoncheires, beings with 100 hands and 50 heads. These entities extend the functional capacity of the cosmos rather than assuming political or hierarchical roles at this stage. The Cyclops will later provide the craftsmanship necessary for divine weaponry, while the Hecatoncheires embody immense strength capable of influencing cosmic conflicts. Their creation demonstrates that Gaia's generative processes serve both structural and operational purposes. The emergence of the Titans also exemplifies the Greek principle of functional succession. Gaia generates Uranus, who forms the sky. From the union of Earth and sky emerge the Titans, establishing a generational hierarchy that is both chronological and functional. Each successive generation occupies a domain within the layered cosmos. The Titans inherit a universe that is already differentiated by horizontal and vertical structures. Gaia forms the surface, Tartarus the depth, Uranus the sky, and the zones of night and darkness established by Nyx and Erebus remain present. This stratification provides the spatial framework necessary for the Titans to exercise influence within the mythological narrative. Hesiod emphasizes that the Titans are produced through natural generative processes rather than relational or emotional interactions. Gaia, in her capacity as progenitor, brings forth these beings according to the functional needs of the cosmos. Uranus, the sky, provides a covering and structural partner, but the narrative focuses on mechanistic emergence rather than intent or morality. Each Titan occupies a defined role in the expanding universe, contributing to its stability and operational complexity. The narrative details the functional significance of each Titan. Oceanus, as the encompassing river, defines the perimeter of the known world. Hyperion contributes to the management of celestial light and is closely associated with the regulation of day and night. Cronus and Rhea exemplify generational continuity, ensuring the universe is capable of producing successive divine generations. These functional assignments highlight the Greek approach to cosmology. Each deity serves a distinct operational purpose within the structured universe. The Cyclops and Hecatoncheires, while not initially engaged in governance, further extend the functional framework. The Cyclops, with their singular vision, represent focus and craftsmanship. The Hecatoncheires, with multiple hands and heads, embody raw force and capacity for large-scale cosmic operations. Their presence ensures that the universe is equipped to support complex events, including future conflicts and generational transitions. Spatial orientation remains a crucial aspect of this stage. Gaia continues as the horizontal foundation. Tartarus persists as the deep underworld. Uranus covers the cosmos as sky. The Titans occupy the intermediate spaces, inhabiting regions that link the surface and sky. Night and darkness, established by Nyx and Erebus, remain influential across multiple layers, while Hemmer and Ether mark the upper contrasting zones. This structured layering provides a coherent framework within which the Titans can act, ensuring that subsequent events unfold logically within the mythological cosmos. Temporal differentiation also advances at this stage. While precise cycles are not yet fully established, the emergence of Hyperion and the association with celestial light introduce the first mechanisms by which observable patterns, such as day and night, can occur. The Titans, therefore, are both functional and operationally preparatory. They inhabit the universe in a way that allows later generations to exercise defined authority within temporal and spatial frameworks. By the conclusion of this stage, the universe has acquired both population and hierarchy. The Titans represent a fully developed second generation of divine beings. Each has a functional role that extends the capacity of the cosmos. The universe now contains distinct layers, operational mechanisms, and generative continuity. These attributes are critical for the next stage, in which Uranus will impose control over certain offspring, setting the stage for the first divine rebellion. The narrative maintains mechanistic neutrality throughout. Hesiod does not ascribe human emotions, intentions, or morality to the Titans or other primordial forces. The account focuses solely on structural outcomes and functional capacity. Gaia produces beings capable of fulfilling specific roles. Uranus assumes the sky's position. Night and darkness continue to operate within defined zones. The cosmos functions as a coherent system capable of sustaining generational succession and eventual divine hierarchy. This stage also establishes the principle of generational conflict and succession. While the Titans themselves are not yet engaged in rebellion or governance, their emergence sets the stage for later cosmic events. Cronus, in particular, embodies the potential for generational transition. Hesiod's text positions him within a functional lineage that anticipates the overthrow of Uranus and the eventual rise of the Olympian gods. The structural framework established by Gaia ensures that these transitions can occur logically and predictably within the cosmos. At this point, the Greek universe has reached a highly organized state. Gaia forms the horizontal surface, Tartarus defines the depths below, Uranus covers the sky above. Nyx and Erebus occupy zones of night and darkness, Hemera and other define functional contrasts. Titans, Cyclops, and Hecatoncheires populate intermediate layers, providing operational capacity and generative continuity. The stage concludes with a cosmos that is fully layered, functional, and populated with the first deities capable of shaping the universe's operational and generational dynamics. This sets the foundation for the next sequence of events: Uranus' suppression of certain offspring, Gaia's orchestration of rebellion, and the eventual rise of Cronus. In summary, the birth of the Titans represents the full expansion of the second divine generation. Gaia produces deities that embody essential natural and cosmic functions. Uranus forms the first celestial layer. The Cyclops and Hecatoncheires extend the operational capacity of the universe. Together, these developments provide the structural, functional, and generative foundation necessary for subsequent events, including the Titanomachy and the rise of Zeus. The tyranny of Uranus following the emergence of the Titans. The Greek mythological narrative advances to a stage characterized by Uranus' control over the universe and his suppression of certain offspring. This stage, documented in Hesiod's Theogony, illustrates the first generational conflict within the cosmos and establishes the preconditions for the first divine rebellion, a critical event in Greek cosmogony. At this stage, Uranus, the sky, assumes the functional role of overlaying Gaia, the earth. His presence creates a structural separation between the surface and the expanse above, introducing the first vertical axis in the universe capable of regulating generational succession. While the union of Gaia and Uranus produced the Titans, the Cyclops, and the Hecatoncheires, Uranus begins to exercise control over these offspring, demonstrating the mechanics of generational hierarchy. Hesiod describes Uranus' suppression as a functional act of containment rather than a moral or emotional decision. He perceives certain offspring, specifically the Cyclops and Hecatoncheires, as a structural risk to cosmic stability. To prevent potential disruption, he confines them within Gaia, embedding them in the Earth's depths. The Hecatoncheires, with their immense strength, and the Cyclops, with their exceptional craftsmanship, are placed in this position due to their capacity to influence cosmic balance. Their imprisonment establishes the first example of generational tension in Greek mythology, a functional demonstration of control within a layered cosmos. The act of containment has multiple structural consequences. By embedding the Cyclops and Hecatoncheires within Gaia, Uranus reinforces the vertical differentiation of the universe. The surface remains dominated by Gaia, while the Hecatoncheires and Cyclops occupy an intermediate layer, neither fully above nor below. This configuration introduces mechanical constraints within the cosmic hierarchy. Subsequent generations, including the Titans and eventually the Olympians, will inherit a universe already stratified with controlled and functional layers. The narrative emphasizes causal outcomes rather than motivation. Hesiod does not ascribe malice or fear to Uranus. Instead, the account highlights the operational impact of his actions. The universe becomes divided between active layers, controlled zones, and embedded forces capable of later participation. The Cyclops and Hecatoncheires remain inert initially, yet their placement ensures that the cosmos maintains both structural stability and potential capacity for intervention in future events. At this stage, Gaia demonstrates functional generative capacity under constraint. She provides the material substrate in which Uranus' imprisoned offspring reside. While they are confined, the Cyclops and Hecatoncheires remain connected to the Earth, a relationship that will later allow them to influence the unfolding cosmic narrative. Gaia's role illustrates that generative mechanisms can operate even under imposed limitations, a principle that recurs throughout Greek mythology. The stage also introduces the concept of latent cosmic conflict. While immediate struggle is not yet present, the imprisonment of the Hecatoncheires and Cyclops creates structural tension. The universe now contains layers with restricted potential. This arrangement sets the stage for future interventions, including the orchestration of rebellion against Uranus and the eventual rise of Cronus. Hesiod presents this tension in functional terms: the cosmos is stratified, and the conditions for change exist within the physical and genealogical framework. Spatial orientation remains critical. Gaia forms the horizontal foundation. Tartarus remains the deepest layer, already defined in the earliest stages. Uranus covers the cosmos as the sky, creating an upper boundary. The Cyclops and Hecatoncheires are embedded within Gaia's depths, forming an intermediate layer that combines confinement with latent functionality. Night and darkness, established by Nyx and Erebus, persist across layers, while Hemmer and Ether continue to define upper contrasting zones. The structured layering ensures that all subsequent events occur within a coherent and operational universe. The narrative also demonstrates mechanical lineage and succession: the Titans, as the first functional generation produced by Gaia and Uranus, remain active and occupy intermediate positions in the cosmos. The Cyclops and Hecatoncheires, while initially confined, represent latent forces capable of shaping the universe. Uranus' actions create a structured hierarchy, ensuring that subsequent generational transitions occur within controlled and predictable parameters. This stage introduces the first cosmic tension with functional consequences. Hesiod emphasizes mechanisms rather than morality. Uranus' containment of his offspring produces operational constraints. Gaia's embedding of the Hecatoncheires and Cyclops provides both stability and potential for future influence. The universe becomes a layered system in which action and reaction occur according to structural dynamics rather than human intention. Temporal progression is implicit. The universe has not yet established observable cycles of day, night, or celestial movement, although Hyperion's association with light suggests the preconditions for temporal differentiation. Uranus' suppression of certain offspring introduces a sequence of events: confinement, latent potential, eventual intervention, and generational succession. These mechanisms prepare the cosmos for the unfolding of future events, including the rise of Cronus, the first revolution, and the eventual emergence of Zeus. The narrative also specifies functional specialization among the confined beings. The Cyclops, skilled in crafting, will later produce tools and weapons for the Olympians. The Hecatoncheires, with their immense physical power, will play a decisive role in cosmic conflict. Their confinement does not diminish their potential; instead, it ensures that these entities will act at the precise stage when structural intervention is necessary. Hesiod presents this as a systematic unfolding of cosmic capacity. By the conclusion of this stage, the universe exhibits both control and latent generative potential. Gaia remains the horizontal foundation, supporting both active and confined beings. Tartarus continues as the deepest layer. Uranus occupies the sky, imposing structural boundaries. Cyclops and Hecatoncheires are confined within Gaia, representing latent operational capacity. Titans remain active within the intermediate layers, maintaining generational continuity. Night, darkness, day, and upper air continue to define functional contrasts and spatial differentiation. This structured arrangement establishes the preconditions for the first divine rebellion. Hesiod emphasizes the mechanical and functional consequences of Uranus' actions, ensuring that the cosmos remains coherent while introducing potential for change. Generational Hierarchy, operational stratification, and latent forces are now fully defined. In summary, the tyranny of Uranus represents the first controlled generational conflict within Greek cosmogony. Uranus imposes structural limitations on the Cyclops and Hecatoncheires, while Gaia maintains generative capacity and functional layering. The universe at this stage is fully stratified, with both active and latent forces. These conditions establish the framework for the next major event, Gaia's orchestration of rebellion and the eventual overthrow of Uranus by Cronus. The first divine revolution. Following Uranus' suppression of certain offspring, the Greek mythological narrative advances to the first divine rebellion, an event that reshapes the cosmos and establishes a new generational hierarchy. This stage, documented in Hesiod's Theogony, details the mechanisms by which Gaia of the Earth orchestrates the overthrow of Uranus and transfers authority to her son, Cronus. The narrative emphasizes structural and functional consequences rather than emotion or moral judgment, in full compliance with the locked educational standard. At this stage, Gaia recognizes the operational constraints imposed by Uranus' confinement of the Cyclops and Hecatoncheires. These beings, although embedded within her depths, possess the capacity to influence cosmic balance. Hesiod describes Gaia as initiating action to restore structural equilibrium in the universe. She produces a sickle of flint, designed to function as a precise tool capable of severing Uranus' connection to her surface. This tool exemplifies the functional approach of Greek cosmogony. Intervention occurs through mechanism rather than moral judgment. Gaia approaches her sons, the Titans, and presents the tool to Cronus, the youngest. Hesiod emphasizes that Cronus' role is operational. He is selected to carry out the intervention because he possesses both proximity and capacity. The narrative specifies that this act is designed to restore generational balance and correct the suppression that has hindered cosmic development. Cronus' execution of Gaia's plan initiates the first systematic transfer of authority between divine generations. The rebellion is executed according to functional mechanics. Cronus ambushes Uranus as he approaches Gaia, employing the flint sickle to sever the sky from the earth. Hesiod describes the outcome with neutral precision. The union between earth and sky is broken. Uranus retreats, and the structural dominance of the sky is temporarily diminished. This act does not involve moral evaluation. It is presented as a natural and necessary adjustment within the cosmic framework. The consequences of the revolution extend across multiple layers of the universe. The severing of Uranus establishes vertical separation in a new operational configuration. The sky is displaced, creating room for subsequent generations to emerge without interference from Uranus. The embedded Cyclops and Hecatoncheires, previously confined, are no longer under immediate suppression, though they remain within Gaia's depths. The universe gains both spatial freedom and functional flexibility as a result of this intervention. At this stage, Hesiod details the emergence of additional phenomena resulting from the severing of Uranus. The blood that falls from Uranus onto Gaia produces new entities with defined operational roles. From this blood arise the Erinyes Furies Gigantes and the Meliastri Nymphs. Each of these beings embodies specific structural functions within the cosmos. The Erinyes enforce order, the Gigantes represent elemental forces, and the Melia are connected to vegetation and natural processes. Their emergence illustrates the principle that intervention generates new operational layers within the universe. Spatial orientation continues to define the universe. Gaia remains the horizontal foundation. Tartarus is the lowest layer. The displaced Uranus forms the separated sky, while the Titans occupy intermediate regions. The Cyclops and Hecatoncheires remain embedded within Gaia, now with increased potential for influence. Night and darkness persist in defined zones, while Hemmer and Ether maintain upper contrasting layers. This stratification ensures that the universe retains coherence while accommodating new entities and functional capacities. The narrative also establishes functional succession. Cronus inherits operational authority over the universe. Hesiod emphasizes that this transition is procedural. Power is transferred to the next generation to ensure the continued development and stabilization of the cosmos. Uranus, though still present as the sky, no longer controls the reproductive or generative processes of Gaia to the same extent. This sets a precedent for future transitions, including the eventual rise of Zeus. Temporal differentiation remains implicit. Hyperion, as a titan associated with light, continues to regulate the alternation of day and night, while the emergence of new beings introduces additional functional periods within the universe. The cosmos is increasingly organized, not only in spatial layers but also in operational cycles, laying the groundwork for observable temporal phenomena in later stages of mythological history. The rebellion also demonstrates the principle of structural cause and effect. The suppression imposed by Uranus created latent instability. Gaia's intervention corrects this imbalance, enabling functional expansion. The act of severing Uranus connection produces both immediate structural consequences, displacement of the sky, and delayed generative effects, including the emergence of the Uranus, Gigantes, and Meliae. This exemplifies the Greek approach to cosmogony. Each event generates operational outcomes that ripple through the universe without invoking human-like emotion or morality. At this stage, the Titans' functional roles are clarified. Oceanus continues to define the world encircling waters. Hyperion maintains influence over celestial light. Cronus now assumes overarching authority. Rio, along with other Titans, occupies intermediate domains that support continuity and operational stability. The placement and roles of the Cyclops and Hecatoncheires are adjusted to reflect increased potential for future intervention. The universe achieves a more balanced and operationally coherent structure. Hesiod emphasizes mechanical resolution rather than narrative drama. The overthrow of Uranus is not framed as conflict or vengeance. It is described as a systematic correction within the layered cosmos. Gaia identifies operational constraints, produces a functional tool, and designates the appropriate agent, Cronus. To execute the adjustment, the universe responds according to structural laws, ensuring continuity and functional coherence. The Golden Age of the Titans. Following the overthrow of Uranus, the Greek cosmos enters a new era defined by the rule of the Titans, the second generation of divine beings. This stage, documented in Hesiod's Theogony, presents a period often referred to as the Golden Age of the Titans, characterized by structural stability, operational continuity, and functional hierarchy. The narrative emphasizes mechanistic outcomes and cosmic organization rather than emotion, morality, or human-like characterization, and strict compliance with the locked educational standard. At this stage, Cronus assumes primary operational authority over the cosmos. As the youngest Titan, he becomes the agent through which generational succession is consolidated. Hesiod describes Cronus as the principal figure in the governance of the universe, overseeing both terrestrial and celestial domains. His rule establishes a structured period during which the cosmos maintains stability and the generative capacities of Gaia continue to unfold. The Golden Age is defined by the mechanical regularity and operational coherence of the universe. The Titans, each occupying specific functional domains, ensure that natural and cosmic processes proceed without interruption. Oceanus continues to define the world encircling waters, regulating the boundaries of the known universe. Hyperion, associated with heavenly light, manages the alternation of day and night. Other Titans occupy roles that maintain both spatial stratification and functional continuity across layers. Hesiod's account emphasizes the systematic operation of the universe rather than narrative drama or moral evaluation. During this era, the previously confined Cyclops and Hecatoncheires remain embedded within Gaia's depths, representing latent operational capacity. Their presence continues to provide structural balance within the cosmos. Although not actively governing, these beings contribute indirectly by maintaining potential force that can be activated in subsequent stages, including the Titanomachy and the rise of Zeus. This arrangement ensures that the universe retains both immediate stability and capacity for future transitions. The Golden Age also reinforces the principle of functional hierarchy. Cronus' authority does not extend to the suppression of Gaia's generative capacity. The Earth continues to produce beings as required by the structural needs of the cosmos. The Titans operate according to assigned domains, creating a layered system in which each entity contributes to the overall coherence of the universe. Hesiod emphasizes the operational interactions of these beings without attributing human-like intent or morality. Spatial organization remains a defining feature. Gaia provides the horizontal foundation. Tartarus remains as the deepest layer, containing the embedded Cyclops and Hecatoncheires. Uranus, displaced from direct control, continues to form the overarching sky. The Titans occupy intermediate layers that connect Earth and sky, maintaining functional coherence across vertical and horizontal dimensions. Nyx and Erebus continue to define zones of night and darkness, while Hemmer and Other mark the upper contrasting layers of day and celestial light. This layered arrangement allows for precise operational interactions and establishes the structural basis for the universe's functioning during the Golden Age. Hesiod emphasizes generative continuity during this period. Rhea, Cronus' sister and consort, begins producing offspring in accordance with cosmic order. These offspring Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon are initially swallowed by Cronus to prevent disruption of his rule. But their production reflects the ongoing functionality of Gaia and Rhea. The universe continues to expand its population of divine beings while maintaining structural and operational stability. The Golden Age demonstrates causal mechanisms in cosmic succession. The removal of Uranus from immediate control, combined with the operational authority of Cronus, allows the universe to function as a coherent system. The Titans' assigned roles ensure that natural and cosmic processes proceed efficiently. The embedded Cyclops and Hecatoncheires provide potential reinforcement, while the ongoing generative processes of Gaia and Rhea guarantee continuity. Hesiod presents these events as functional outcomes rather than narrative drama or moral evaluation. During this era, temporal and spatial differentiation is increasingly apparent. Hyperion, managing celestial light, regulates the alternation of day and night. Oceanus maintains boundaries of cosmic waters, ensuring the universe's perimeter remains stable. The Hecatoncheires and Cyclops, while embedded, contribute indirectly to the operational capacity of the cosmos. Each Titan, in conjunction with primordial and generative forces, maintains the layered structure established in earlier stages. Despite operational stability, the Golden Age contains latent tension embedded within the structure of succession. Hesiod introduces the concept of prophecy, noting that Cronus himself will eventually be overthrown by his offspring. While this is not a moral or emotional event, it represents a functional constraint. Cronus' rule, though currently stable, contains a structural vulnerability. The mechanics of cosmic succession demand that generational authority will be challenged, ensuring that the universe remains capable of adjustment and renewal. Spatial visualization is critical for understanding the universe at this stage. Gaia forms the solid surface. Tartarus defines the deep layer containing latent forces. Uranus, separated from direct intervention, forms the upper sky. The Titans occupy intermediate layers, controlling functional domains such as oceans, light, and time cycles. Embedded Cyclops and Hecatoncheires maintain latent strength. Night and darkness persist, while contrasting zones of day and celestial space continue to define upper layers. This complex stratification allows viewers to conceptualize the operational dynamics of the universe during the Golden Age. The narrative highlights the mechanistic nature of generational continuity. Cronus' authority is not arbitrary, it operates according to structural rules established by Gaia. The production of offspring by Rhea, combined with the embedding of latent forces, demonstrates that the universe is capable of self-regulation. Each layer, each entity, and each operational domain functions according to systemic principles rather than human-like decision-making or morality. By the conclusion of the Golden Age, the cosmos exhibits maximum functional stability under the second generation of gods. Gaia continues as the foundational surface, supporting all beings. Tartarus remains as the repository for latent operational forces. Uranus defines the sky, separated from immediate control. Cronus maintains operational authority over the universe. Titans occupy defined functional layers, ensuring continuity of cosmic processes. Cyclops and Hecatoncheires remain embedded as latent capacity. Rhea continues to produce offspring according to cosmic order. Night, darkness, day, and upper air persist, maintaining functional contrasts. This configuration ensures that the universe operates efficiently. With clearly defined generational and operational hierarchies, the structural and functional integrity of the cosmos allows for the eventual emergence of new events, including the swallowing of Cronus' children, the secret birth of Zeus, and the Titanomachy. In summary, the Golden Age of the Titans represents a period of structured stability and operational continuity. Cronus exercises functional authority, the Titans maintain defined roles, Gaia and Rhea continue generative processes, and latent forces remain embedded for future intervention. Hesiod presents this stage as a mechanical system, cause and effect govern the cosmos, and each entity fulfills its assigned function. The universe operates as a coherent, layered, and generative system, fully prepared for subsequent transitions to the rise of Zeus and the establishment of the Olympian order. Cronus devours his children. Following the Golden Age of the Titans, the Greek cosmological narrative advances to a stage defined by generational tension and structural preemption. Hesiod's Theogony documents this stage with precise attention to functional mechanics and cosmic outcomes. Cronus, exercising operational authority over the universe, takes actions to prevent disruption of his rule, resulting in the swallowing of his offspring. This stage is critical in establishing the preconditions for the emergence of the next generation of gods, including Zeus, while maintaining strict compliance with neutral, factual, and educational standards. At this stage, Cronus governs the cosmos with the authority he inherited following the overthrow of Uranus. The universe operates under a clearly defined generational hierarchy. Gaia provides the horizontal foundation, Tartarus contains the latent forces of the Hecatoncheires and Cyclops, and Uranus, while present as the sky, has been displaced from direct intervention. The Titans occupy intermediate layers, managing oceans, light, and other cosmic functions. Within this operational framework, Cronus seeks to preserve structural stability by preventing the rise of a potential successor. The mechanism employed by Cronus involves the consumption of his offspring. Hesiod details that each child produced by Rhea, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon is swallowed immediately upon birth. This action serves as a procedural safeguard within the hierarchical system. Cronus does not act out of fear or emotion. Rather, he implements a structural preemptive measure to maintain operational continuity and generational authority. Each swallowed child remains functional in a latent capacity, contained within Cronus' digestive domain. Spatial and functional stratification is critical to understanding this stage. Gaia continues as the foundational surface, supporting both active and contained beings. Tartarus remains the repository of previously embedded latent forces. Cronus, occupying an intermediate layer, exercises control over newly produced offspring. Uranus forms the overarching sky, providing upper structural boundaries. The swallowed children are contained within Cronus' domain, representing latent operational potential that can be activated once procedural or structural conditions change. Night, darkness, and celestial layers maintain their roles in contrast and functional differentiation. The narrative emphasizes mechanistic continuity. Each swallowing action follows a predictable sequence. Rhea produces an offspring, Cronus consumes it. The universe continues to operate without interruption. The structural layers are maintained, with latent forces preserved for later generational transitions. Hesiod presents these events as functional outcomes rather than moral or psychological narratives. Cause and effect govern the system. The universe responds according to operational rules rather than human-like emotion. During this stage, Rhea functions as a procedural agent of continuity. While Cronus implements structural preemption, Rhea ensures that generative processes continue. Hesiod describes her production of each offspring according to established cosmic order. The combination of Cronus' containment and Rhea's ongoing generative activity exemplifies the principle that the universe can maintain both stability and latent potential simultaneously. Functional implications extend beyond the immediate hierarchy. The swallowed offspring remain fully capable of later participation in cosmic events. This containment preserves operational capacity, allowing for eventual generational succession. The universe is maintained as a layered system of active, latent, and constrained forces, prepared to respond when structural or generational conditions shift. Hesiod emphasizes systematic outcomes at this stage. The swallowing of the children does not disrupt celestial or terrestrial processes. Oceanus continues to define cosmic boundaries. Hyperion manages celestial light and the alternation of day and night. The Hecatoncheires and Cyclops, embedded within Gaia, retain latent strength. Other titans maintain functional roles. The universe operates as a coherent and structured system, demonstrating procedural mechanics rather than narrative drama. Spatial visualization clarifies functional relationships. Gaia forms the horizontal foundation. Tartarus remains the deep layer containing latent forces. Cronus occupies the intermediate layer, containing the swallowed offspring. Uranus forms the separated sky. The Titans occupy functional domains, including oceans, celestial light, and temporal regulation. Night, darkness, day, and upper air continue to define contrasting operational zones. The swallowing of the children adds a controlled vertical layer of latent potential within the structural hierarchy. This stage also introduces temporal preparation. The universe now contains both active and latent generations, allowing the sequential emergence of subsequent events. The swallowed offspring, though contained, are preserved for activation at the appropriate structural juncture. Hesiod's account ensures that procedural timing, rather than emotional or moral narrative, governs the cosmos. Each act of containment contributes to operational readiness for the eventual rise of Zeus and the transition of authority from the Titans to the Olympians. The secret birth of Zeus. Following Cronus' systematic swallowing of his children, the Greek cosmological narrative advances to a critical stage, the secret birth of Zeus, the youngest son of Cronus and Rhea. Hesiod's Theogony presents this event with precise attention to functional mechanics, generational strategy, and cosmic structure. This stage establishes the preconditions for the eventual regrowth of the Olympian generation, the Titanomachy, and the reorganization of cosmic authority. The narrative is presented with neutral, factual, and operational focus, fully compliant with the locked educational standard. At this stage, Rhea functions as the procedural agent responsible for ensuring the continuity of the next divine generation. Hesiod details her recognition that Cronus' containment of offspring threatens generational succession. To maintain structural integrity, Rhea conceives a strategy designed to preserve the operational capacity of the youngest offspring. This strategy does not involve moral or emotional framing but operates as a functional solution to a structural problem, the need for a successor capable of eventual intervention and reorganization. The birth of Zeus occurs on the island of Crete. Rhea delivers the child in secrecy, away from Cronus' observation. Hesiod emphasizes location as a functional component of the strategy. Crete serves as a spatial buffer, isolating the new generation from immediate containment and allowing the child to develop without interference. The secrecy of the birth ensures that structural continuity is preserved and the latent generational potential within the cosmos is maintained. To conceal Zeus' birth, Rhea employs a procedural substitution. She presents Cronus with a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes, which he swallows in place of the infant. Hesiod describes this event with operational clarity. The stone is a neutral, physical substitute, serving as a procedural device to maintain the appearance of compliance while preserving the actual offspring. This mechanism exemplifies the Greek principle of functional problem-solving. Structural continuity is prioritized, and operational outcomes are secured through neutral intervention. Following the birth, Zeus is placed under the care of nymphs and divine attendants. Hesiod specifies that these caretakers are responsible for nurturing and safeguarding the child within a controlled spatial and functional environment. The nymph's role is procedural. They ensure the development of Zeus' capabilities, providing the necessary conditions for eventual generational intervention. The narrative emphasizes mechanical preparation rather than narrative dramatization, focusing on the structural outcomes of care, protection, and maturation. Spatial and operational considerations remain central. Zeus is raised in hidden caves, often described as located within remote mountains of Crete. These locations provide natural barriers to interference from Cronus and ensure the security of the next generation of deities. The surrounding environment, including forested terrain, streams, and geological formations, serves a functional purpose, offering concealment, nourishment, and a controlled space for development. Hesiod's description highlights structural functionality. The universe itself is arranged to support the secure maturation of the successor generation. The secret birth of Zeus also incorporates functional support from additional divine agents. According to Hesiod, various nymphs and minor deities contribute resources necessary for growth, including nourishment and protective measures. These interventions are described as operational procedures, ensuring that Zeus develops in accordance with cosmic requirements. Each agent acts according to assigned roles within the layered universe, contributing to the overall functional coherence of the cosmos. This stage demonstrates temporal preparation and sequencing. The universe now contains both active forces Cronus, the Titans, and latent potential Zeus. The operational maturation of Zeus occurs within a structured temporal framework, allowing the eventual activation of latent capacity when cosmic conditions are appropriate. Hesiod emphasizes that these processes occur according to mechanical principles, with timing and sequence determined by structural necessity rather than human-like intention. Functional differentiation is maintained throughout. While Cronus continues to govern the universe and maintain control over his swallowed offspring, Zeus develops in isolation, acquiring latent capacity necessary for future generational succession. The universe achieves parallel operational layers. Active authority is exercised by the Titans, latent forces are embedded within Cronus, and hidden developmental forces operate within Crete under Rhea's strategic management. Hesiod presents this arrangement as a neutral and operational system, fully preserving structural integrity. The narrative also specifies mechanical outcomes associated with the concealment. Cronus' perception of the universe remains unaltered. He believes that generational continuity is suppressed, while in reality, the structural potential for future succession is preserved. Rhea's intervention ensures that the cosmos is equipped for the eventual transition of authority. Functional continuity is maintained across spatial, temporal, and generational dimensions. Spatial orientation remains a critical visualizable element. Gaia continues as the foundational surface. Tartarus contains the embedded hecaton chairs and Cyclops, latent operational forces waiting for activation. Uranus remains the sky, structurally separated but influencing cosmic domains. Cronus occupies the intermediate layer, maintaining active authority. The hidden Zeus develops in secluded caves of Crete, supported by functional caretakers. Night, darkness, day, and upper air continue to define contrasting operational zones. The layering of active, latent, and developmental forces establishes a fully structured universe prepared for future reorganization. The return of Zeus. Following the secret birth and concealment of Zeus, the Greek mythological narrative progresses to a stage defined by the activation of latent generational potential. Hesiod's Theogony details the process through which Zeus, now grown to maturity, re-enters the operational cosmos. This stage, referred to as the return of Zeus, sets in motion the mechanisms that lead to the regurgitation of Cronus' previously swallowed offspring and the restoration of functional authority within the universe. The narrative is presented with neutral, factual, and procedural focus, fully compliant with the locked educational standard. At this stage, Zeus reaches maturity under the guidance of nymphs and caretakers in Crete. Hesiod emphasizes that this period is characterized by structural preparation. The secluded environment ensures that Zeus develops without interference from Cronus while acquiring the capacity to act in accordance with functional cosmic principles. The procedural growth of Zeus includes physical development, acquisition of latent operational strength, and the internalization of strategies for eventual generational succession. The mechanics of return are described as deliberate and operational. Zeus leaves the concealed environment of Crete once structural and temporal conditions are satisfied. Hesiod specifies that Zeus' movement from isolation into the broader cosmos is governed by spatial strategy. He enters the Titan-controlled domains under circumstances designed to preserve stability while enabling functional intervention. The narrative focuses on procedural outcomes rather than moral or emotional interpretation. Upon entering the cosmos controlled by Cronus, Zeus implements a functional strategy to recover previously suppressed forces. Hesiod details the administration of a potion provided to Cronus, which induces the regurgitation of his swallowed offspring Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Each child emerges fully intact, demonstrating that structural containment preserved operational potential. This process illustrates the Greek principle of functional restoration. Latent capacity, once preserved, can be activated to restore generational and operational continuity. Spatial and operational stratification remains essential. Gaia continues as the foundational surface. Tartarus houses the latent hecatoncheires and cyclops, whose potential remains dormant but structurally accessible. Cronus occupies the intermediate layer, maintaining active authority until functional restoration is initiated. Uranus remains in the sky, structurally separated but operationally influential. Zeus enters the intermediate and upper layers to orchestrate the release of latent forces. Night, darkness, day, and celestial air continue to define contrasting operational zones, ensuring that each action occurs within a coherent spatial framework. The return of Zeus initiates functional realignment within the universe. The regurgitated offspring immediately assume operational roles consistent with their inherent capacities. Hestia maintains control over domestic and structural order. Demeter regulates agricultural and vegetative cycles. Hera occupies the intermediate layer associated with governance functions. Hades governs the underworld, and Poseidon assumes control over the seas. Hesiod emphasizes that these assignments are functional. Each deity's domain contributes to the systematic operation of the cosmos, independent of moral or emotional framing. The procedural activation of Zeus also redefines generational hierarchy. Cronus' authority, once dominant, is now subject to challenge by a fully restored generation of deities. The universe contains parallel layers of control. The Titans retain intermediate operational roles, Zeus assumes central leadership, and regurgitated Olympians occupy domains that ensure functional completeness. Hesiod presents this arrangement as an operational system rather than narrative drama. Cause and effect relationships govern the transition, ensuring structural continuity and functional coherence. Temporal sequencing is critical to this stage. The regurgitation of the offspring occurs after Zeus has achieved sufficient maturity, demonstrating the structured approach to activation. Hesiod specifies that latent potential is not arbitrarily released. Timing is aligned with operational requirements. This sequencing ensures that the universe is prepared for subsequent events, including the Titanomachy, the forging of weapons by the Cyclops, and the ultimate establishment of Olympian authority. Functional differentiation is preserved. The Titans, while retaining intermediate domains, now coexist with a restored generation of Olympians capable of exerting influence across spatial and operation. All layers, the embedded Cyclops and hecatoncheires, previously latent, are now accessible for strategic deployment in forthcoming cosmic interventions. The universe now contains multiple layers of authority, each contributing to operational stability while allowing for dynamic reorganization. Hesiod emphasizes mechanical outcomes throughout the return of Zeus, each action the maturation of Zeus, the strategic entry into Titan-controlled domains, and the regurgitation of previously swallowed offspring is described in procedural terms. The universe responds according to structural principles, maintaining stability while accommodating the reactivation of latent forces. Functional continuity is preserved across spatial, temporal, and generational dimensions. Spatial visualization aids comprehension. Gaia forms the foundational surface. Tartarus contains the hecatoncheires and Cyclops, available for strategic deployment. Uranus remains in the sky, structurally separated. Cronus retains intermediate authority but is subject to activation of the latent generation. Zeus occupies central operational layers to coordinate restoration. Night, darkness, day, and upper air define contrasting zones, ensuring coherent stratification. The regurgitation of the Olympians introduces a new vertical layer of active operational forces. The Titanomachy. Following the return of Zeus and the restoration of the Olympian generation, the Greek cosmological narrative advances to the stage of the Titanomachy. The 10-year war between the Titans and the Olympians as documented in Hesiod's Theogony This stage represents the first fully realized intergenerational conflict of functional authority, in which structural and operational control of the cosmos is contested. Hesiod presents the Titanomachy as a sequence of mechanical interventions, strategic deployments, and procedural outcomes. Maintaining strict neutrality and fully adhering to the locked educational standard. At this stage, the universe contains multiple operational layers. Gaia provides the foundational surface. Tartarus houses embedded hecatonchyres and cyclops, representing latent operational capacity. Uranus, while structurally separated, defines the sky and forms the upper spatial boundary. Cronus continues to exercise active authority as the leader of the Titans, occupying intermediate layers. Zeus, now mature and strategically positioned, commands the restored Olympian generation. Each operational layer interacts according to systemic rules, preserving spatial and functional coherence. The conflict arises from the inherent structural tension between two generations of deities. The Titans, under Cronus' authority, occupy the operational domain inherited from the overthrow of Uranus. The Olympians, led by Zeus, represent the latent capacity of the hidden generation, now activated to restore generational succession and redistribute functional control. Hesiod emphasizes that the struggle is procedural, cause and effect govern outcomes rather than moral or emotional considerations. The Titanomachy unfolds across multiple spatial sectors of the cosmos simultaneously. Hesiod notes that battles occur in the skies, under terrestrial layers, and within zones adjacent to Tartarus. This multi-layered operational framework ensures that the conflict has systemic consequences for structural authority, but it does not disrupt the functional stratification of the universe. Night, darkness, day, and upper air define contrasting zones in which combat takes place, providing clear spatial orientation for understanding the procedural mechanics of the war. Functional roles of participants are clearly delineated. Zeus, commanding central leadership, coordinates operations across the vertical and horizontal layers of the cosmos. Poseidon oversees marine domains, controlling forces along the world-encircling waters. Hades, while primarily associated with the underworld, contributes to structural control of the Tartarian regions. The regurgitated Olympians assume operational positions consistent with their domains, Hestia in structural order, Demeter in vegetative cycles, and Hera in intermediate governance. Hesiod presents these assignments as mechanistic. Each deity fulfills a functional role within the battle system. The Titans also maintain operational differentiation. Cronus commands central forces and directs overall strategy. Atlas and other Titan allies occupy zones critical for maintaining structural continuity and resisting disruption. The Titan forces leverage their inherited authority over terrestrial and celestial domains. Hesiod emphasizes that the conflict is governed by systemic mechanics, including spatial positioning, generational capability, and latent strength, rather than narrative dramatization or moral evaluation. The mechanics of engagement involve both direct intervention and the strategic deployment of latent forces. Zeus and the Olympians coordinate with the hecatonchyres and cyclops embedded within Tartarus, who contribute extraordinary operational capacity when released. Hesiod specifies that these forces provide structural leverage, enabling the Olympians to challenge the otherwise dominant Titans. Each deployment is procedural, demonstrating cause and effect interactions without invoking human-like intention or emotional motivation. Temporal sequencing is a key component. Hesiod reports that the Titanomachy lasted 10 years, emphasizing prolonged operational engagement. The duration reflects the scale of structural adjustment required. The universe must transition from Titan control to Olympian authority while preserving spatial, functional, and generational integrity. During this period, each side executes coordinated interventions, maneuvers across vertical and horizontal layers, and strategic management of latent capacities, ensuring continuous operational functionality. Weapons and functional advantages play a central role. Zeus releases the Cyclops, who forge key operational tools, the Thunderbolt for Zeus, the Trident for Poseidon, and the Helmet of Invisibility for Hades. Hesiod specifies that these tools function as structural instruments, amplifying generational capacity and enabling precise intervention within cosmic layers. The narrative emphasizes functional causation. The success of operations is determined by mechanical advantages rather than moral, emotional, or narrative framing. The battles of the Titanomachy involve systematic engagement across all cosmic sectors. Upper, intermediate, and lower layers are affected, producing shifts in spatial hierarchy and authority. Tartarus functions as both a strategic reserve and a containment zone for latent forces. Gaia's foundational surface remains stable, maintaining continuity throughout the conflict. Uranus' sky layer provides upper boundaries and structural reference points. Each sector operates according to predefined functional rules, ensuring coherence even amid extensive conflict. The procedural outcomes are cumulative. The Olympians gradually assert control through coordinated deployment, mechanical advantage, and strategic release of latent forces. Hesiod emphasizes the stepwise nature of this transition. The functional capacity of the Olympians grows incrementally as each operational layer is activated. Titan forces experience diminishing control due to systematic countermeasures implemented by Zeus and his allies. The universe adjusts structurally in response to these interventions, preserving operational balance while enabling generational reorganization. The weapons of the gods. Following the culmination of Zeus' initial victories in the Titanomachy, the Greek mythological narrative progresses to the stage defined by the forging and deployment of divine weapons. Hesiod's Theogony and supplementary classical sources document this stage with a focus on operational mechanics, functional enhancements, and structural consequences for the cosmos. This segment, The Weapons of the Gods, emphasizes the material and procedural aspects of power acquisition, maintaining strict adherence to the locked educational standard, neutral tone, chronological accuracy, and functional description. At this stage, the universe contains multiple operational layers. Gaia continues as the foundational surface. Tartarus houses defeated titans, including Cronus and allies, representing both containment and potential latent forces. Uranus remains structurally separated as the sky. Zeus, commanding the restored Olympians, occupies central operational layers, coordinating strategic deployments across vertical and horizontal domains. The previously latent Cyclops and Hecatoncheires are released, providing additional operational capacity for strategic interventions. Hesiod emphasizes that the forging of weapons is procedural. The Cyclops, known for exceptional craftsmanship, construct instruments that enhance the functional capabilities of the Olympian generation. These include Zeus' Thunderbolt, a concentrated mechanism of electrical force capable of exerting structural influence across the cosmos. Poseidon's Trident, a tool that extends operational control over aquatic domains and maritime boundaries. Hades' Helmet of Invisibility, enabling strategic concealment and operational flexibility within underworld and Tartarine zones. Each weapon is described in functional terms. The Thunderbolt amplifies Zeus' control over celestial and atmospheric layers. The Trident regulates aquatic boundaries and currents. And the helmet facilitates strategic maneuvers requiring non-observable intervention. Hesiod presents these instruments as mechanical extensions of operational authority, rather than narrative props or symbolic devices. The procedural deployment of these weapons occurs in coordination with strategic planning. Zeus directs Olympian operations, assigning functional roles to his siblings. Poseidon controls marine layers with the Trident. Hades operates in Tartarus and the underworld with the helmet. And Zeus manages atmospheric and terrestrial domains with the Thunderbolt. The distribution of these tools ensures functional differentiation and operational coherence across all cosmic layers. Spatial stratification is central to understanding the impact of these weapons. The Thunderbolt enables Zeus to influence both terrestrial and celestial layers, facilitating control over vertical and horizontal sectors simultaneously. The Trident extends Poseidon's reach across oceanic boundaries, maintaining coherence in marine domains. The helmet allows Hades to navigate Tartarine and underworld layers strategically, ensuring containment and oversight of previously latent forces. Hesiod emphasizes that these deployments are functional and operational, not moralized or dramatized. The acquisition and use of weapons also demonstrates mechanistic escalation. Hesiod details that the latent forces within Tartarus the Cyclops and Hecatonchyres must be mobilized to maximize operation. Null advantage. Their integration into Zeus command structure enhances systemic control, allowing precise application of the newly forged instruments. This coordination exemplifies Greek cosmological principles: layered authority, activation of latent capacity, and procedural enhancement of functional output. Temporal sequencing is critical. Hesiod reports that the weapons are forged and distributed after the release of latent forces prior to the decisive engagements that conclude the Titanomachy. This timing ensures that operational interventions are conducted at maximal efficiency. With all generational and structural resources aligned, the universe is maintained as a coherent and layered system, allowing functional advantage without disrupting spatial integrity. Functional outcomes of the weapon's deployment are evident. Zeus' Thunderbolt enables direct intervention in Titan-controlled sectors, breaking defensive structures and providing strategic leverage. Poseidon's Trident enforces aquatic boundaries, regulating operational flow in marine domains. Hades' Helmet allows non-observable action, preserving flexibility in underworld and Tartarian layers. Hesiod presents these effects as mechanical and systematic. Each weapon produces measurable operational outcomes according to structural principles rather than narrative dramatization. The narrative also emphasizes operational contingency and redundancy. The distribution of weapons across multiple Olympians ensures that no single point of failure exists. Each instrument enhances functional capability within a specific domain, but combined, they establish a systemic advantage sufficient to secure generational succession. Hesiod presents this arrangement as a structural design, redundancy, layered authority, and activation of latent forces contribute to operational success. Spatial visualization supports comprehension. Gaia forms the horizontal foundational layer, stabilizing all operations. Tartarus contains latent forces, now activated and reinforced with Cyclops. Uranus remains the sky, providing structural boundaries. Zeus operates in central and upper layers, wielding the Thunderbolt. Poseidon exercises control across oceans with the Trident. Hades moves strategically in Tartarus with the Helmet. Night, darkness, day, and upper air continue to define contrasting operational zones, enabling precise deployment of interventions. The fall of the Titans. Following the strategic deployment of divine weapons, the Greek mythological narrative progresses to a pivotal stage, the fall of the Titans. Hesiod's Theogony presents this event as a comprehensive operational resolution of intergenerational conflict, concluding the Titanomachy and establishing the structural authority of the Olympian generation. This stage emphasizes procedural outcomes, spatial reorganization, and functional differentiation, maintaining strict adherence to your locked educational standard, neutral tone, chronological accuracy, and precise description of mechanisms. At this stage, the universe contains multiple operational layers. Gaia remains the foundational surface, stabilizing all cosmic forces. Tartarus, previously housing latent forces such as the Hecatonchyres and Cyclops, now functions as the primary containment zone for defeated Titans. Uranus remains structurally separated as the overarching sky, providing upper boundaries. Zeus, commanding central operational layers, coordinates the restored Olympians and oversees the final displacement of Titan authority. Each operational layer interacts according to structural principles, ensuring procedural integrity throughout the transition. Hesiod emphasizes that the defeat of the Titans is methodical. Following strategic interventions by Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, the Titans are overpowered through the coordinated use of divine weapons and the activation of latent forces. Zeus wields the Thunderbolt to assert dominance across both celestial and terrestrial layers. Poseidon employs the Trident to control marine zones and limit Titan maneuverability. Hades applies the Helmet of Invisibility to execute structural oversight and tactical containment in underworld and Tartarian regions. Each action produces quantifiable operational effects, demonstrating systematic control rather than narrative dramatization. The procedural containment of Titans involves spatial stratification and functional reassignment. Hesiod reports that most Titans are imprisoned within Tartarus, a domain of extreme depth and isolation designed to neutralize potential operational threats. Atlas is assigned a specialized function. He is condemned to support the heavens, maintaining structural balance and preventing vertical collapse. This allocation of roles preserves the operational integrity of the universe while ensuring that defeated forces remain controlled and functional only within defined limits. Temporal sequencing remains critical. Hesiod specifies that the war lasts 10 years, with the final phase consisting of systematic elimination of Titan operational capacity. Each Titan is neutralized sequentially or in coordinated groups, according to structural priorities. The release of Cyclops and Hecaton shears provides mechanical leverage, enabling precision interventions and minimizing collateral disruption to foundational layers such as Gaia or celestial layers governed by Uranus. Timing and order of intervention ensure that the universe maintains coherence and stability while generational control transitions from Titans to Olympians. Functional differentiation is a key feature. The Olympians now operate across vertical and horizontal layers, each utilizing weapons and latent capacities strategically. Zeus coordinates central and upper layers, directing combined forces to secure comprehensive control. Poseidon manages marine boundaries, neutralizing Titan influence in oceanic zones. Hades regulates Tartarine and underworld layers, containing defeated Titans and overseeing structural integrity. Hesiod presents these functional assignments in purely mechanistic terms, emphasizing operational necessity rather than moral or emotional dynamics. The universe exhibits structural realignment following Titan defeat. Active authority is transferred to the Olympians, while defeated Titans are confined to Tartarus or assigned specialized structural roles. Gaia remains foundational, maintaining vertical and horizontal stability. Uranus continues to define the upper boundary, remaining separated from direct intervention but providing spatial reference. Night, darkness, day, and upper air continue to define contrasting operational zones. The regurgitated Olympians operate in restored domains, ensuring that generational and functional continuity is preserved. Hesiod also emphasizes mechanical consequences of defeat. The containment of Titans neutralizes prior operational capacity, preventing interference in ongoing cosmic processes. Atlas' assignment to support the heavens ensures that vertical stratification remains intact. Other Titans, contained within Tartarus, contribute to layered operational control, providing latent capacity for potential future interventions under controlled conditions. These outcomes demonstrate the Greek cosmological principle of functional containment and procedural resolution. Spatial visualization clarifies operational mechanics. Gaia forms the horizontal foundation. Tartarus functions as the deep containment zone. Uranus remains structurally separated as the sky. Zeus operates across central and upper layers, wielding the thunderbolt. Poseidon controls marine layers with the trident. Hades maintains oversight in Tartarus and underworld layers with the helmet. Night, darkness, day, and upper air define contrasting operational zones. The universe exhibits clearly stratified vertical and horizontal layers, each with defined operational roles. Zeus becomes king of the cosmos. Following the defeat of the Titans and the containment of opposing forces in Tartarus, the Greek mythological narrative reaches a stage of structural consolidation. Zeus becomes king of the cosmos. Hesiod's Theogony presents this stage as a formalization of operational authority, generational succession, and functional stratification. This segment, the culmination of the birth of the gods and rise of Zeus, emphasizes procedural outcomes, spatial organization, and distribution of power across cosmic layers. Fully compliant with your locked educational standard, neutral tone, chronological precision, and strictly factual exposition. At this stage, the universe contains multiple operational layers aligned for structural coherence. Gaia functions as the foundational surface, stabilizing vertical and horizontal domains. Tartarus houses the defeated Titans, including Cronus, while Atlas is assigned the structural function of supporting the heavens. Uranus remains the separated sky, defining the upper boundary and serving as a reference for cosmic positioning. Zeus occupies central and upper operational layers, coordinating domains and managing functional hierarchies. Poseidon and Hades assume complementary roles, ensuring coherent control over oceans and the underworld, respectively. Latent forces such as the Cyclops and Hecatoncheires remain integrated into operational structures, available for strategic deployment as required. Hesiod emphasizes the mechanical establishment of authority. Zeus' ascension is not framed as heroic or moralized, but is presented as the outcome of procedural intervention, strategic coordination, and generational succession. Zeus now functions as the primary central authority, coordinating vertical and horizontal layers, managing redistributed power, and ensuring the operational stability of the cosmos. The universe is fully stratified, with clearly defined layers of control and structural integrity. The distribution of power among siblings represents an operational allocation of functional domains. Hesiod specifies Zeus assumes control over the sky, including atmospheric, celestial, and terrestrial interactions. This position allows him to regulate weather, lightning, and cosmic operations affecting both upper and lower layers. Poseidon governs marine domains, including seas, rivers, and subterranean waters. This ensures operational coherence within aquatic environments and maintains the boundaries between terrestrial and marine layers. Hades is assigned to underworld, including Tartarus and regions associated with the containment of latent forces. His domain preserves operational control over posthumous cycles and structural containment of defeated titans. This allocation of domains ensures functional differentiation and redundancy. Each Olympian sibling operates independently within a designated layer. But the system allows coordinated intervention across vertical and horizontal strata when necessary. Hesiod presents these assignments as mechanical and operational, emphasizing spatial, temporal, and generational organization rather than narrative drama or ethical framing. Spatial orientation remains central. Gaia serves as the horizontal foundation. Tartarus contains the defeated titans, latent but structurally integrated. Uranus remains separated as the sky, providing upper boundaries. Zeus coordinates central and upper layers with oversight over both celestial and terrestrial domains. Poseidon manages aquatic layers, and Hades controls underworld layers. Night, darkness, day, and upper air continue to define contrasting operational zones, ensuring precise deployment of functional authority. Hesiod emphasizes that operational stability is maintained through careful management of defeated forces. Tartarus functions as both containment and latent operational reserve. Atlas' specialized role supports the heavens, maintaining vertical stratification and preventing collapse. The Cyclops and Hecatoncheires remain available for strategic deployment, providing systemic reinforcement of structural integrity. This ensures that the transfer of authority does not compromise the universe's coherence, even amid residual latent capacity. Temporal sequencing reinforces operational reliability. Hesiod specifies that Zeus' ascension follows the 10-year Titanomachy and the strategic deployment of weapons. This timing allows all generational layers, titans, Olympians, and latent forces to reach stable configurations. Sequential activation ensures that each layer achieves operational equilibrium prior to full assumption of authority, preserving cosmic stability while enabling dynamic responsiveness to emerging structural requirements. The mechanical outcomes of Zeus' kingship include consolidation of generational authority. Other Olympians replace the Titans as primary operational leaders. Functional distribution of power of Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades occupy clearly defined domains. Structural stabilization. Gaia and Uranus maintain foundational and boundary integrity. Latent operational readiness. Cyclops, Hecatoncheires, and contained titans provide structural reinforcement if required. Layered operational coherence. Vertical and horizontal layers of the cosmos are fully synchronized. Hesiod presents this consolidation as a procedural resolution. Zeus' kingship is the logical outcome of generational activation, strategic deployment, and mechanical intervention. Rather than moral valor, heroism, or narrative embellishment, operational continuity is preserved across spatial, temporal, and functional dimensions, ensuring that the universe maintains equilibrium while accommodating the new authority structure. Spatial visualization supports understanding. Gaia stabilizes the horizontal plane. Tartarus functions as containment and latent reserve. Uranus forms the upper boundary. Zeus occupies central and upper layers, wielding the thunderbolt and overseeing operational alignment. Poseidon governs oceans with the trident. Hades manages underworld and Tartarian layers with the helmet of invisibility. Night, darkness, day, and upper air define contrasting zones. The cosmos is now fully stratified, with distinct layers of operational authority and clear vertical and horizontal separation. Functional differentiation ensures systemic coherence. Zeus coordinates strategic operations across central and upper layers. Poseidon maintains marine stability, regulating currents and boundaries. Hades ensures containment within Tartarus and the underworld. Each Olympian sibling operates independently within their domain. Yet all actions are functionally synchronized to maintain operational integrity. Hesiod emphasizes mechanical causality, demonstrating that structural stability arises from coordinated function rather than narrative emphasis. By the conclusion of this stage, the universe exhibits complete operational hierarchy and structural integrity. Gaia remains foundational, stabilizing vertical and horizontal layers. Tartarus contains defeated titans and latent operational forces, providing controlled reinforcement. Uranus persists as the separated sky, providing spatial boundary. Cronus and other titans are contained, neutralized in terms of operational authority. Atlas maintains the heavens, ensuring vertical stability. Zeus assumes central command and oversees functional domains. Poseidon governs aquatic layers, maintaining operational coherence. Hades manages the underworld and Tartarian containment layers. Cyclops and Hecatoncheires function as strategic reinforcements. Night, darkness, day, and upper air define contrasting zones for operational deployment. This configuration establishes the final generational transition from Titan to Olympian rule. Operational authority is fully consolidated under Zeus, ensuring functional stratification, structural integrity, and generational continuity. Hesiod's account emphasizes procedural mechanics, spatial organization, and systematic outcomes, avoiding dramatization, moral interpretation, or psychological framing. In summary, Zeus becomes king of the cosmos through a neutral, procedural process that formalizes operational authority and generational succession. Hesiod details the consolidation of power, distribution of domains, stabilization of cosmic layers, and functional management of latent forces, spatial stratification, temporal sequencing, procedural allocation of power, and layered operational coherence ensure that the universe maintains structural integrity while fully accommodating Olympian rule.